After plenty of races that got away, many that he dominated and should have won, Ryan Blaney finally gets his first win of the 2025 NASCAR season today in Nashville. Carson Hocevar ruffles some feathers but finishes second. Let's break down NASCAR in Music City. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR at the Nashville SuperSpeedway. An exciting race tonight, a very interesting race with some tire strategy, a little bit of fuel mileage. We'll talk about Denny Hamlin coming up just short, Carson Hocevar once again in the headlines, and then Ryan Blaney finally getting that win in 2025 that he probably should have got earlier in the year. Let's break down this NASCAR Cup Series race, and we have to start out with the man that won tonight. Ryan Blaney, driver of the 12 car, the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion, finally gets back to victory lane this season in 2025. First win of the year at Nashville, but there's a lot of close calls for Ryan Blaney. Got it today, but I can go back to many races that Blaney probably should have, or at least could have, won this season. Shoot, you can go back to Daytona when he got caught up in an accident with Joey Logano. That was unfortunate. Frustrating for Ryan Blaney fans there, considering how close he's been to winning the Daytona 500. I go back to Miami as one that I've been pointing to for quite some time. Dominated that Miami race, looked to have the fastest race car, looked to be a very serious contender. Shoot, was the guy to beat in Miami till an engine expired. That was very unfortunate and frustrating for the driver of the 12. And then, of course, I remember Darlington. I mean, was it 2 laps to go when he was leading the race? Looked like he was going to get a win at Darlington, prestigious racetrack. Caution comes out from Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin goes on to win that race. A few others I can call out. Many of races Ryan Blaney came up short in. Atlanta was another one earlier this year. Plenty of races we can go back and look at. But today was all Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was able to capitalize, go out there, win today. Did everything perfect on the fuel strategy, putting on tires at the end of the race. The last pit stop, the money pit stop, was perfect for that team. No penalties, no issues. Had a big lead, worked with it. Was able to get around lap traffic, keep his cool. Spotter crew chief for trying to cool him down when he was getting involved in some lap traffic, stuck behind John Nemechek for a while. Ryan Blaney did everything right, was able to win. Big win for him, and it punches him in the playoffs, right? And they were talking about a little bit on post-race show, but it is good. It is a bit of a relief, right? Because I think there was maybe probably a little bit of pressure. All the other Penske racing cars have won. Josh Berry won a race with a Penske affiliated team. Cindric got his win at Talladega. Joey Logano won at Texas. Now you can go ahead and put all the Penske drivers as a whole in the NASCAR playoffs. All 3 Penske drivers in the playoffs, each with 1 win, 14 races in. That's certainly big news for all those drivers. And once again, a pretty solid night for Penske Racing as well. Joey Logano finishing in the 4th position. So at this point in the season, we're seeing the Fords and we're seeing Penske show a lot of speed and a lot of strength. And if I look at the previous 3 years that they've won the championship, they've won every championship in the next-gen era. They weren't that fast at this point in the season. And this was kind of the point of the year they started to pick things up. Well, they're already on top of it this year, and I don't know, that could make them a little bit more dangerous heading into the playoffs here in just a few months. So certainly we have to keep an eye on that throughout the rest of the season, but a nice win for Blaney. And, Nashville's kind of a good city for Ryan Blaney too, right? I think if I look at a driver that's sort of, more popular with the pop culture, knows the celebrities, it's Ryan Blaney. Certainly there were a lot today in Nashville. Ryan Blaney even talked about it in his post-race interview. Big deal for him to win at Nashville. A lot of people he knew, a lot of family members, a lot of people he knew at this racetrack that were pulling for him to win this race. So certainly a big deal for Blaney. But we have a lot to talk about. The best way to explain this race, I think, is to simply just go through the top 10. Let's talk about the drivers in the top 10. I want to take a look at Carson Hocevar finishing second. Big deal for the driver, the number 77, right? Carson Hocevar has been up front a majority of races this season, shown a lot of speed. I go back to Atlanta when he was up front, finished in the top 3. I think he finished second in that race. I go back to Charlotte, the Coca-Cola 600 a week ago. Up front, contending for the win. Definitely a top 5, top 3 race car. Expired engine in the last 100 laps of that race. Very frustrating for that team. But today, capitalized, got a second place finish. We've talked all year. Carson Hocevar, driver of the 77 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet, is up front, very fast, has the speed, but cannot execute and get the finish. The pit crews made many mistakes. The drivers made a lot of mistakes. Well, today they finished second. And, a little bit of controversy came with this. He got into Ricky Stenhouse Jr. early on in the race. Ricky Stenhouse did back it into the wall. Ricky's another one of those drivers trying to make it into the playoffs. Ricky was obviously upset about that, got turned. Ryan Blaney, obviously got turned earlier this year in Atlanta. That caused a little bit of controversy. Ross Chastain had a conversation with Carson Hocevar after that Atlanta race. I actually did a video on this back in February after that Atlanta race. So Carson Hocevar, in his second full-time season as a Cup Series driver, very aggressive driver, very aggressive driving style. But, he's starting to get some results. I think second place today made it to the 500-mile mark. I believe it was close to it, to the 500-mile mark, at least the 400-mile mark last week in Charlotte until an engine expired. So not him overdriving the race car. Certainly things are getting better for this team. And once again, I think it was Steve Letarte said it best. This is not the little engine that could anymore. This is now a team with the race car, the technology, the crew that can win races or at least finish up front. And Spire's put a lot of money into NASCAR over the last few years. When I look at Carson Hocevar, I see future star written all over him. I see signs of brightness, signs of greatness every couple of weeks with this driver. And I think if he can start to execute things, as he said as well, he thinks that this is a championship-winning team moving forward. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind this team could start showing really solid results if we continue to watch it a few more years. I've heard some comments, about he reminds me of a young Ross Chastain or Ross Chastain in 2022 when he was causing some drama, upsetting some people. People didn't like a new face up front. Reminds me a lot of that. Hocevar might be better as a driver than Ross Chastain. Not going to claim that, but he could be. But just very interesting, and I hope Carson Hocevar doesn't let that get to his head. It doesn't seem like he does. Wasn't really unapologetic in his post-race interview, but I don't know. Didn't see the replay. I'm not really going to put too much on there. It was definitely a mistake, definitely on Carson Hocevar in this instance, but that's what he's going to continue to do. We talked about with Ross Chastain in 2022 and 2023 that they're not going to let him go far in the playoffs. The drivers are going to get this guy back and not let him get good results because of this, and it's going to cause him a lot of issues. Well, I did not see many times. I think one time Denny Hamlin got back Ross Chastain at Phoenix. But other than that, I never saw an instance where a driver really got back Ross Chastain. We don't see everything that happens on the racetrack. Some things could have been missed on camera. But overall, I think with Carson Hocevar being very aggressive, it's paying off for him. Right? I got him a second place finish today. I don't see why he would stop until something happens, and I don't think it will. But we'll have to continue to watch it. Denny Hamlin finishing third today, actually waiting for the call. His wife obviously expecting a third child. Denny Hamlin was able to complete today's race before getting that call, fortunately for him. So we'll have to see how that goes this week. So hopefully everything goes well with that. And once again, I want to congratulate Denny Hamlin on that third child. But a nice third place finish today on his 700th start. Ties for best career finish on a 700th start. Nobody's ever won. Jeff Gordon finished third at Darlington in 2013. Denny Hamlin finished third today at Nashville SuperSpeedway. So once again, big milestone there, 700 starts. Good race today by Denny Hamlin. Just couldn't quite get it done. Showed a lot of speed early in the race. It seemed like when the night temperatures came, the track probably cooled off a little bit, gained a little more grip. Denny Hamlin wasn't quite as fast as Ryan Blaney, wasn't quite as fast as Hocevar. Don't even know if he was really as fast as Joey Logano. Couldn't quite jump him on the final pit stop, which is what he tried to do a week ago at Charlotte on Byron. Didn't work. They were short. Tried to do it again this week. Nothing really went wrong. It just wasn't able to work out for him. Wasn't able to get by Ryan Blaney there in the later stages of the race. But a nice third place finish for Denny Hamlin nonetheless. Still showing a ton of speed right now. The driver of the 11. Definitely a championship favorite at this point in the year. Joey Logano. Like I said, I know he won this race a year ago. But that was a really fluky, luck-filled race. I hate to say it, but it definitely was. It was more strategic than anything else. The fastest car did not win that race at all last year. Joey Logano was like a 20th place car at best last year at Nashville. This year, definitely was a top 10 race car, finished fourth. A lot of speed out of this 22 team. If I go back to his previous couple of championships, right, 2022, but especially last year in 2024, Joey Logano was having a disastrous year up until this point. That win turned things around for him. But this year, I'm seeing a lot of speed already. That could make him even more dangerous. I talked about that as Ford and Penske as a whole, but certainly a nice fourth place finish for the driver of the 22. Want to keep watching him move forward. Already with the win this year, Texas. William Byron, nice fifth place finish. A lot of speed for him once again. Just didn't quite have the race car to get up front and win the race today. But we're still seeing a lot of speed out of William Byron at this point. Great turnaround for Bubba Wallace. It's been a rough few weeks for Bubba Wallace, wrecking out at Texas, wrecking out at Kansas, wrecking out a week before that. Where were we at last week? Charlotte, wrecking out of the Charlotte race, unfortunately. A lot of issues for the 23 car. Finally put everything together today. Actually got a pit road speeding penalty to start the race, but came back, finished top 10. Eric Jones, nice 7th place finish. I'm noticing these, the 43 car and the 42, these Legacy Motor Club Toyotas are starting to break into the top 10 for the first time in years. and that's certainly exciting for them. First time since they switched over to Toyota, especially. Kyle Larson, 8th place finish. Once again, Kyle Larson is the only driver. He was talking about how he wasn't good at Nashville in his post interview. He's the only driver out of all 5 Nashville races in NASCAR in the Cup Series. He's the only driver to finish top 10 every one, right? He won the inaugural one, dominated in 2021, finished top 10 in all the ones in the next-gen car, and once again finished top 10 today. I think this was his worst finish at Nashville SuperSpeedway in his career and in the racetrack's history. So certainly something to watch out for there. Kyle Larson just strong everywhere we go. A lot of raw speed out of that race car. And that's how he's able to finish top 10 so frequently. Got to continue to watch him. Tyler Reddick finished 9th. Christopher Bell actually spinning, backing into the wall earlier in this race, was able to recover and finish 10th. So a nice 10th place finish, I'd say, for Christopher Bell. So I know that was a while going through the top 10, but I think breaking down the top 10 really explained the race very well. But let's pull it up the playoff grid, right? Once again, this jumps... this is going to put Ryan Blaney in gold, jumps him up to 5th on the playoff grid, guaranteed in the playoffs. So 9 different winners, 14 races in. I go to Chase Elliott. I look at Tyler Reddick. These guys, a ton of racing speed. Once again, just a ton of speed, a ton of points in, a lot of cushion for them. I don't see a situation, no matter how many winners we get, that Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick don't make it in the playoffs. But after those drivers, after Reddick's 140 buffer, it gets a lot closer. Bubba Wallace in by 54, but that's only a couple of races. And once again, a couple of winners could make it tighter. Chase Briscoe only in by 53. Alex Bowman in by 45. So you see Alex Bowman getting caught up in an issue. Once again, he's only 45 points in. To break down Alex Bowman a little bit, a string of bad finishes for him. I go back to Darlington, the issue started. I go back to many races this year. The last couple of weeks, crashing out early in the Charlotte 600, crashing out today. I used to talk about how Alex Bowman was Mr. Consistent. Well, it's not been a very consistent year so far. Only 45 points in. This team's got to get back on track because they've not been getting the results lately, and they're only 45 points in right now. Buescher gets even closer, 8 points. Kyle Busch only in by 2. You see Ryan Preece had a bad day today. Ryan Preece actually got caught up in some issues, finished in the back today, is now 2 points out. Carson Hocevar, once again, with a great finish today, got some stage points, finished 2nd. That moves him up to 18th, only 4 points out. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finishing last today. That puts him 6 points out after getting in a scuffle with Carson Hocevar. AJ Allmendinger, 7 points out after not being able to recover. A pass-through penalty early in this race really set him behind early. Was never really able to fully recover, get into the top 10. But AJ Allmendinger now 7 points out of the playoffs. And I know this is this is how I usually show the grid. I go from 1st to 20th, and the first 4 guys out are what I show. But let's just take a quick look. It's really close with a lot of drivers. A lot of drivers could still point their way in, which is not usual. You can go all the way to 26th on the grid, Austin Dillon, and they're within 50 points of that cut line, which means only 14 races complete of the 26. They could point their way in very realistically. It's not just mathematically. They could do that. So we want to keep watching all these guys moving forward. Once again, Eric Jones in the top 10 today, showing some speed, only 32 points out. So it's very rare that I go this far down on the grid. At least I haven't done that in the previous few years of the show, but I think I can do it now. And then once again, also if I look farther down the grid even, I look at Shane Van Gisbergen, who's got some races coming up. So SVG, some road course races. He could get a win, move the cut line up some. I think Brad Keselowski, I know he's had a disastrous year, but I think it's possible that he could win a race just based off some of the raw speed I've seen at some racetracks. Things did go wrong for him, but I think it's possible for Brad K to win a race. Very much of this could change. And once again, I always say this, if you're on this grid in points, you want to be 15th because you're definitely going to get a winner below the grid. At least that's what you want to expect. And then move the cut line up 1. But that's it. Really all there is to talk about following this Nashville race. I thought it was a solid race. There was some strategy involved. Suddenly, dirty air was very prevalent, very difficult to make passes at this racetrack. We've seen that over the last few years. It was very real tonight with probably a little bit more grip on the racetrack. But I thought it was a solid race. I thought the broadcast did a really good job. I thought Ryan Blaney did a great job staying out front. And then, of course, you could tell the cars were starting to get harder to drive at the end of the race as well. I thought there were some interesting storylines. We go to Michigan next week, one of my favorite tracks on the schedule. All that raw speed, long back straightaway, wide turns, 2-mile oval, the only 2-mile oval left on the schedule. Certainly going to be exciting next week in Michigan. Of course, I'll do a post-race analysis following that. And of course, about Kyle Busch, 2 points in at the playoffs now, finishing 12th today. Let's get rowdy.